What's the story, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in between? So whether you agree or disagree, it looks like Erik ten Hag is out the door for Manchester United. It looks like he's going to be sacked. It looks like there's no return. And look, whether you agree or disagree, I think it's going to happen. I think we've been here before with Manchester United. We've seen it happen. Man United fans have worn the t-shirt. We've seen it with Louis van Gaal, we've seen it with Oli, we've seen it with Jose Mourinho, and we even saw it with David Moyes less than a year after Sir Alex Ferguson announced his retirement. And in this video, we're going to be discussing who should be the next Manchester United manager. We're going to be looking at the odds over on Odds Checker and just breaking down which one of the 5 most likely managers could take charge of Man United, and maybe some outside shouts that aren't really being mentioned by the likes of bookies and everything else as well. I suppose first of all, if you're new to the channel, if you could hit the like button and subscribe, it would be much appreciated. And obviously the last video I done on the channel about Aston Villa done a lot better than I expected, to be honest with you. A lot of new subscribers coming over to the channel. I think I had like 70 subscribers before that video. I now have like 105 last time I checked. So, sound. Appreciate you. Yeah, let's discuss Man United. And first of all, Erik ten Hag, should he be sacked? Like, let's just answer that question straight out the gate, because that's obviously sort of the question that everyone's been asking and answering already. Like, for me, I think there's so many dimensions to that question, because like, Man United are just absolutely fucked from start to bottom. Like, let's be completely real here, and let's not beat around the bush by any stretch of the imagination. Like, they are royally fucked. Do you know what I mean? Like, from top to bottom, behind the scenes, the way the club is run, no sporting director. Like, they just seem an absolute mess. Are they selling the club? They're getting Qataris in, then Jim Ratcliffe's coming in, then the Glazers are like, no, we don't want him. They're putting the club up for 10 billion, even though the valuation's around 5 billion. It's just an absolute mess, and you just don't know what's actually going on with Man United behind the scenes. It seems like an absolute shit show, and any manager that they've had since Sir Alex Ferguson has failed miserably, and all their big money signings have all pretty much failed miserably as well. And it goes back, like, I've seen some chat during the week, like, is Man United cursed? I don't think they are cursed. I think they're just run absolutely terribly. And, players are being allowed to do what they want. There's a real player power culture. I don't think players are, really that enticed to play for Manchester United. And managers, I think, have been given too much responsibility. And the pressure as well with managing Man United has become a bit too much for a lot of these managers. Because we're talking about great managers who have managed Man United. I mean, Jose Mourinho, an elite manager, in my opinion. And look, I know things didn't work out well for him at Tottenham, and Rome has sort of been up and down. But he's an elite manager, and he even done a good job there. He won a Europa League, he won a Carabao Cup, he got them second in the Premier League. I think their highest points total since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. So like, I don't think he was necessarily a bad manager. And even Erik ten Hag, I don't think he's a bad manager either. I thought he'd done a very good job with Ajax. But I think what's happened is, because of the way the club is run, they've given Erik ten Hag too much responsibility. They've basically said to him, here you go, here's all the money, that you need. Go out and sign who you want, and we'll see what happens. There's no real structure, identity to the club. It's a very sort of old school system in many ways that we don't see at a lot of clubs anymore. Like, managers aren't given 100% of the responsibility at some of the top clubs around the world. Like, you look at Premier League clubs like Man City, Liverpool, Brighton, Aston Villa. I think there's all a structure and a set way, a scouting networks are set up to get certain types of players. And even if a manager, leaves, or a certain player leaves the football club, there's already someone else in place to come in. And with Man United, that just isn't the case. Like, they have multiple different players from different managers, different styles, and it's all just an absolute mess, isn't it? It's all just an absolute mess. And look, to be fair to Erik ten Hag, I think he has made life harder for himself. He's come out with some bizarre stuff in press conferences, like coming out and saying that, we're never going to play the way that he played at Ajax. I thought it was just a very foolish thing for him to say. It just, like, whether he means it or not, you shouldn't say that, because he's just added way more pressure to himself, and he's put himself under more pressure than he should be, than he's already under. And, I think the way that, look, the whole Ronaldo situation, to be fair, I thought he actually handled it quite well. I think of a player like Ronaldo, wasn't performing, regardless of who Ronaldo is and the legend that he is. He wasn't performing for Man United in his final season. He was clearly kicking up a bit of a storm behind the scenes. I thought Erik ten Hag handled it the right way. I think it was the right decision for Ronaldo to be exonified and for him to leave. And look, they went on to win a Carabao Cup. I don't think, if they had Ronaldo in the team, I don't think they necessarily would have done better than they did. But you are looking at a lot of those trends, like the Sancho situation. Apparently there's a falling out with Rafael Varane. Garnacho has had his issues with Ten Hag as well. Like there seems to be a lot of rumblings behind the scenes, bust-ups, all sorts of chaos really happening with Erik Ten Hag. And I don't think he's really handled the media that well as well. I think that's something that, the great managers in England do so well. The likes of Pep, the likes of Sir Alex, obviously Jose as well. Klopp, I think, is getting better at it as time has gone on. So yeah, I think he's dug a grave for himself. And, the signings clearly haven't worked. A lot of them haven't worked. I think going out and buying loads of players from the Dutch league, like, the Premier League and the Dutch league, like, it's a complete gap, and there's no guarantee that those players are going to work. And you just look at some players like Mason Mount. I don't know why he bought him. He signed Amrabat, which we thought would be to play a double pivot with Casemiro. That doesn't seem to be the case. It's just an absolute shit show, really, and I just can't see him turning it around from here. I really can't, because I think the Man United board, they love a scapegoat as well. They'll see Ten Hag as the enemy, and sacking him and bringing in another name will appease some of the sort of very narrow-minded Manchester United fans that are out there, and football fans in general. Football fans are very fickle. It's not even applied to Manchester United. So yeah, look, I think he will go. I think he will be sacked, and as a Liverpool fan, it's a shame, because I think you should give him time, at least until the 17th of December. Then maybe afterwards you can do what you want, Carry on the trend of managers getting sacked off of defeats to Liverpool. That would be absolutely brilliant. So let's look at the next Man United manager odds. You'll see on screen there. This is just from Odds Checker. These are the odds right now, and the sort of percentage breakdown of who could be the next manager. So Zinedine Zidane is the favourite at 4-1. Julian Nagelmann is there with 5-1 odds, 16% chance. Graham Potter is there, Antonio Conte, and Gareth Southgate. I did see as well that apparently they're looking at Ruben Amorim from Sporting Lisbon as well. He could potentially be an option. Running through all of them, first of all, Gareth Southgate, that's never going to happen. I think it's, you're asking to waste your money if you were to put any money on that. Like, that's just absolutely crazy talk. Like, number one, Gareth Southgate is not going to leave a very cosy and comfortable England job to go to Man United, especially with the Euros next year. He's not going to leave. Makes absolutely zero sense, unless he was to somehow get sacked, which isn't going to happen between now and the Euros. I think maybe after the Euros he will be available. But again, would Man United pick Gareth Southgate as their manager? I think it's very risky, very risky, because Gareth Southgate, I think he's done all right with England, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't won anything, and he's had an absolute golden crop of players. And when you look at his club management with Middlesbrough, like, that was an absolute disaster. It would be a massive, massive risk. And I think Man United, should try and avoid those type of managers, because things could go wrong very, very quickly. And I don't think the fans would necessarily want him in as well. Zinedine Zidane, look, Zidane has had the opportunity to manage multiple clubs since leaving Real Madrid. He could have went to Man United a couple of years ago. They didn't get him. Whether he was on their shortlist, I don't think he was. There was talks about him going to PSG last year, Bayern Munich, and I just think, why would he go to Man United? He could go to any big top club out there. If the Real Madrid job became available again, I don't even necessarily think it would be the worst decision for Real Madrid to get him for a third time. So, yeah, and Zidane doesn't need money. He doesn't need to necessarily be a manager. He's an absolute legend of the game. So I just think, why would he risk a bit of his legacy and go to Manchester United? I just don't see that happening. And would he even be a good manager? I think it would be a short-term fix, which, to be fair, seems to be what works for Man United at the minute. But yeah, I don't think that would be a good option. And just looking, I think Julian Nagelsmann out of the five there, I think is the best option available. But looking at the others, like Graham Potter, again, massive risk. He came into Chelsea under massive pressure. It didn't work. I think Man United is a tougher job, to be honest with you. And yeah, is Graham Potter going to be afforded the time? He had time at Chelsea. He probably had more time at Chelsea at the start, or, he had more perceived time, and it didn't work. I don't think he's necessarily the worst manager out there, but I just think it would be I just don't think Manchester United should be looking at Graham Potter. Antonio Conte, I'm surprised he's here. Like, we're not looking back at what happened with Tottenham. He clearly didn't want to be there towards the end. Things went really, really sour. He might come into Man United, get a buzz out of the team and do well, but in a year and a half's time, we're going to be in the exact same situation, and there's no guarantee that Man United win anything under Conte as well. And the football is going to be absolutely terrible, and you're going to have all these players that Erik ten Hag signed for. I know he said, he's never gonna play that style of football, but you'd imagine at some point he's trying to get them to play football, and Antonio Conte is just going to go completely the opposite way. So yeah, I think Julian Nagelsmann would be the best option out of those 5. I know Ruben Amorim of Sporting Lisbon has been mentioned as well. I don't know a lot about him, to be honest, so I don't want to say anything I shouldn't say about him. But what I would say is there is always hype, a lot of hype about Portuguese managers. I think it started with Jose. It started when he done what he done with FC Porto. I'll be honest, a lot of the managers who've come out of Portugal since, I don't think have been that great, like in terms of the absolute elite level, like Andre Villas-Boas, Marco Silva. Realistically, they're not elite level managers. Do you know what I mean? And a few others maybe that I haven't mentioned as well. So Ruben Amorim, I don't know. It's one of them. It's a massive risk. It could work. He could be the next big thing. But yeah, I wouldn't be convinced by that, in fairness. So yeah, Julian Nagelsmann would be the right man. Again, though, Nagelsmann, I think he likes to manage under a structure. When he managed Leipzig and Hoffenheim, they had particular structures behind the scenes. And I don't think Nagelsmann would want to go to Manchester United, but I do think it would be a great appointment. I do think he's a great manager. I think he would be similar in some ways to Erik ten Hag in terms of philosophy, in terms of ways of playing. And, he did succeed, and he did do quite well at Hoffenheim and also at Leipzig. I know, he got sacked by Bayern Munich, but that was a mental one, wasn't it? I mean, his team were top of the league. He would have won trophies there. He would have been successful. So that was a little bit of a bizarre one. But yeah, Nagelsmann's probably the best option available. But again, does he choose Man United? He probably doesn't. And I think that is the problem for Man United, is if they sack Ten Hag, they need to have someone else lined up who is guaranteed to do better and is guaranteed to get a kick out of the team. So that is the issue with Man United. You are looking at the managers available, and I'm not sure. Roberto De Zerbi, could he be a great option from Brighton? But again, he's also a manager who manages under a very clear identity and structure. And I think De Zerbi, as long as he keeps doing what he's doing with Brighton, there's going to be other jobs that will become available. And I think De Zerbi should look at the previous manager who was in charge of Brighton jumped at the opportunity to go to Chelsea, and his stock has massively gone down now. So I think De Zerbi should probably be a bit more patient about this. I have seen other suggestions as well, like bring in Michael Carrick until the end of the season, who's obviously doing a fairly decent job with Middlesbrough in the Championship. Again, though, you're looking at another Ollie situation there. If it goes really well, you bring him in as permanent manager, and then it's you've put all your eggs in the one basket there. It's another massive risk. So it's interesting to know, but I'd be curious to know what Manchester United fans think in the comments down below. Like, personally, if I was given the decision, which why would you give a Liverpool fan a decision? Makes no sense. But if hypothetically I would keep Ten Hag for another while, just because I don't think there's a obvious. Like Nagelsmann, I think, is there, but I think you want to get Nagelsmann in the summer when he has a transfer window, when he can bring in players. Do you bring him in now and you could still save the season? It's hard to know. It is hard to know. It's hard to know, and I think maybe a managerial bounce is what Man United need, just to sort of keep themselves in the hunt for Champions League football at the very minimum, because they're not going to win the Champions League. Even if they go into the Europa League, I don't think they'll win that. And like the FA Cup is their next chance at silverware. Maybe if they have a new manager by then, January transfer window, they might be able to do something. But I think they're just, as I said, I think they're royally fucked. They're genuinely finished in more ways than one, unless the owners sell, and then they might be back. But yeah, there we go. Let me know in the comments down below who should be the next Manchester United manager. some interesting names on the list there. Again, though, I think it's, because Man United have been here time and time again since Sir Alex has left, unless they fix the structures behind the scenes, it's, I think they could appoint any one of those 5 there, and I think in a year and a half we'll be in the same scenario. Maybe Man United win an FA Cup, maybe they win a League Cup, but the top honours, the Premier League and the Champions League, they're coming nowhere near that anytime soon with the way the club is run. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Sound out to all the lads who subscribed there recently. I do appreciate it. Hopefully we can continue, hopefully we can continue the uploads in this channel and continue being consistent. So yeah, cheers to anyone who tuned in. Speak to y'all soon.